You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Subscribe to our channel for new story. Story title: The Boy Who Wanted More Cheese. Klaas Van Bommel was a Dutch boy of 12 years, living in a land where cows roamed the green meadows and cheese was a staple of every meal. Standing over 5 feet tall with rosy cheeks and a hearty build, Klaas weighed a sturdy 100 pounds. His hair, a blend of carrot and sweet potato hues, was as thick as the reeds in a swamp and was trimmed level from one ear to the other. Klaas's appetite was legendary. His mother often joked that his stomach had no bottom. Klaas wore timber shoes that clattered loudly as he ran to chase rabbits or trudged to school over the brick roads of his village. In the summer, he donned a rough blue linen blouse, while in winter, he wore woolen breeches as wide as coffee bags, called bell trousers, and a thick, warm jacket. Up until the age of 5, Klaas was dressed like his sisters, but on his 5th birthday, he proudly received his first set of boys' clothes, complete with 2 pockets. The Van Bommel family was not wealthy, but they lived well. Klaas's father was a diligent farmer, and their home was always filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the sight of cheeses stacked high in the pantry. Meals were simple yet hearty: rye bread and fresh milk for breakfast, bread, cheese, and a heaping plate of boiled potatoes with melted butter for dinner, and bread with skim milk for supper. Cheese, however, was Klaas's favorite. He could never get enough of it, and his constant desire for more often led to good-natured teasing from his family. Klaas's 3 younger sisters, Trintje, Anneke, and Saartje, known as Kate, Annie, and Sally in English, were affectionately called Orange Blossoms by their mother. Klaas, on the other hand, was her Buttercup, a nickname earned from his habit of dipping his potatoes in butter long after everyone else had finished eating. Despite his good nature and helpfulness around the farm and at school, Klaas's insatiable craving for cheese was a source of endless fascination and amusement. One summer's evening, after a particularly stern scolding from his mother for his greediness, Klaas went to bed in a huff. His bed was in the garret, where a glass tile in the roof allowed moonlight to filter in. As he lay there, moping, he noticed a strange light outside. Curious, Klaas climbed onto a stool to get a better look. The light seemed to be dancing, flickering like a host of fireflies, but more unified. As he watched, he began to hear a faint whisper, growing louder until it formed words. "There's plenty of cheese. Come with us." Klaas rubbed his eyes and strained his ears. The invitation repeated itself, clearer this time. Filled with excitement and a touch of trepidation, Klaas decided to investigate. He slipped into his wooden shoes, tiptoed out of the house, and headed towards the pine woods. Under the canopy of trees, Klaas was greeted by an enchanting sight. A circle of fairies, as tiny and luminous as fireflies, danced around a fairy ring. The fairies, noticing Klaas, beckoned him to join their dance. He felt himself lifted by their dainty hands and twirled around the ring. It was exhilarating, and Klaas lost all sense of time as he danced with the fairies until the first light of dawn. Exhausted, Klaas collapsed within the fairy ring and fell into a deep sleep. In his dream, he was surrounded by fairies who served him slices of cheese with golden knives. He ate with abandon, savoring every bite. The fairies kept bringing more and more cheese: Edam, Gouda, Leyden, and even the strong-smelling Limburg. Soon, the piles of cheese began to grow, forming walls around Klaas, and still the fairies urged him to eat. Klaas's delight turned to discomfort, as his stomach felt like it was filled with lead. He gasped for breath, but the fairies, not understanding his human limits, continued to press cheese upon him. The cheese walls grew higher, and Klaas felt trapped, like a frog in a well. He cried out, but the fairies only laughed, thinking he was making music. Finally, the enormous cheese wall began to topple over him, and Klaas screamed in terror, convinced he would be crushed. Klaas woke with a start to find the sun rising and birds singing. He sat up, realizing he was in the pine woods, with dew-soaked clothes and a mouthful of grass. There were no fairies, no piles of cheese, only the morning light filtering through the trees. The village clock chimed, bringing him back to reality. As Klaas walked home, he reflected on his strange night. He never told anyone about his encounter with the fairies, unsure if it had been a dream or something more. However, the experience left a lasting impression. Klaas's appetite for cheese never waned, but he learned to appreciate the moderation and the loving teasing of his family. From that day on, whenever he reached for an extra slice of cheese, he would smile, remembering his night with the fairies and their lesson on indulgence. Back at the Van Bommel household, life continued much as before. But Klaas carried with him a secret, a reminder of the magical night when he learned that sometimes wanting more isn't always better. And though he still loved cheese, he found joy in sharing with his sisters and savoring the simple, abundant pleasures of life on the farm. If you like this story, please give this video a like. For more stories, go to bedtimedreamytales.com. See you in the next story.